Hello, welcome back to my haunted library. It's Regina, and welcome back to another Slow Burn Sunday. It's been a while since I've done one, but back getting into the swing of things again. So this week I am going to be doing a film that also has a book tie-in that came out in 1975. Yes, I'm still stuck in the 70s, and that is called Audrey Rose. So I do remember seeing this movie when it came out in 1977. Did I say 75? The book came out in 75. The movie came out in 1977. Has a little bit of like an Exorcist kind of setup, but it's not anywhere near like a horror film the way The Exorcist is. Audrey Rose came out in 1977, directed by Robert Wise, starring Marsha Mason and Anthony Hopkins, and it was based on the novel by Frank Di Felitta. He wrote a couple other novels kind of along the same lines of like suspense, psychological suspense, which I remember hearing about, and now I'm really interested in reading because I'm about 3/4 of the way through the book, which is pretty much the same plot as the movie, few differences, and I'm really enjoying it. I love the way he writes. It's very good, like commercial fiction from that time. So it's kind of like Rosemary's Baby in that the building that it takes place, a lot of it takes place, is its own kind of character. So in Rosemary's Baby, it was the Dakota building. In Audrey Rose, it's the Des Artistes, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is an actual building in New York, and it's fantastic looking with these Fragonard type paintings on the ceiling and this incredible woodwork. I mean, those apartments now would probably go for like $20 million or something. But in this 70s setting, you know, these are well-to-do people. The father, Bill, is like a Madison Avenue guy, and his wife, Janice, is like a stay-at-home mom who dabbles a little bit in photography, although that's just in the movie, not in the book. And they have a lovely daughter, and everything's going great. So of course, something's gonna have to come along to destroy their ideal life. So the movie starts with this very dramatic scene of a car accident in like a head-on collision that happens in Pittsburgh during a snowstorm, which the book starts out the same way. Then we switch to this very idyllic kind of family life going on in New York City, where you have Bill and Janice, the parents, and their beautiful 10-year-old daughter, Ivy. So everything's going great with the family until this strange man, played by Anthony Hopkins, named Elliot Hoover, starts showing up at Ivy's school and kind of stalking her. So the parents are very concerned, and they notice that he's just hanging around. He's in the elevator when Bill's at work. He's on the bus. The mom gets into a little car accident where in the book she's in a cab and the cab gets struck and she gets kind of stunned. In the movie, there's just like this quick scene where it looks like she actually got hit by a car, but she's not really hurt, but she's late in picking up her daughter. And when she gets to the school, it's raining, and in the book it's a snowstorm, but it's kind of the same feel. And she kind of chases this, there's this scene where she's like chasing a girl that she thinks is her daughter, and almost kind of like a don't look now kind of feeling. Hoover, played by Anthony Hopkins, confronts her and says, "Oh, your daughter's home. I walked her home." So he's now made that jump where he's actually made contact with the child. Very upsetting situation. And at the same time, little Ivy's having these terrible nightmares where she's waking up in the middle of the night and she's like going over to the window and trying to like kind of like sleepwalking and in a panic, and she's starting to hurt herself with these nightmares and this kind of acting out in her sleep. So Hoover finally makes contact with them, and they agree to meet him to find out just what he wants, and they also get their lawyer involved in this type of thing. So they meet in a very civilized restaurant, and he basically tells them a story that he believes that their daughter, Ivy, is the reincarnation of his daughter, Audrey Rose. So he talks about going to India and learning a different spiritual belief and studying Buddhism and embracing the concept of reincarnation. In the book, it gets much more into that, and I actually really like that part of the book where he goes and kind of lives among this family and kind of learns their philosophies and their way of life, and kind of walks that path to gain a knowledge of the truth of reincarnation. So the book gets much more into the whole India part of Hoover's journey. And the film does show some, it looks like stock footage of burial rituals and this type of thing that take place in India. So Hoover kind of presents this very calm demeanor, but he's very sure in his belief that this little girl Ivy that the soul of Audrey Rose is like trapped in this child. And because she was taken, her soul was taken before it was ready to move on, that it's kind of, she's trapped there. And she's reenacting this horrific scene where she died in this car accident and burned to death within this car. And she's, the reason that she's banging on the glass is because she's trying to get out. So this happens when Ivy's having one of these fits. She responds to Hoover when he calls her Audrey Rose, and she calms down when she's having one of her fits. And the father, get your hands off my daughter, knocks him out, but the mother is starting to see the truth in what he's saying. So we kind of get this interesting dynamic going on between these three people, where it's almost as if the mother, and not in a romantic way, but she is finding some connection with Hoover, where the father is being very stoic and saying, this guy's a nutcase, don't let him convince you that he's right, he's after our daughter because he's a pervert and all this type of thing. So it does, while I was reading the book especially, I was thinking, what would I do in this situation, Because the little girl, Ivy, is responding to Hoover, and she's not responding to us, and the psychiatrist that we're spending all this money on, whatever, it's not helping. She is hurting herself, and one night she does really hurt herself. She gets actual burns. So she crosses over from like a dream state into where she's manifesting something in reality. So then the story goes on, and Hoover, even though he has this kind of calm, Zen-like quality about him, he becomes more aggressive in his wanting to be near Audrey Rose, who's Ivy, what he thinks is Audrey Rose, and he rents an apartment in the building, and actually, in a pretty dramatic scene, kidnaps Ivy up a back entrance to his apartment when she's having one of her fits, when the parents are out, and he gets arrested for kidnapping this child. And then the story really changes, and the movie changes, and the book changes from this kind of family drama to a courtroom drama. And I think rightly so, the book and film kind of lose focus at this point. The film certainly changes completely, and I was reading some of the original film reviews, and a lot of people kind of pointed that out as a weakness in the film, because it does really change. And we get this like hotshot lawyer, and he has a bigger role in the book as well, who is representing Hoover. So the defense attorney is not just trying to convince the jury that Hoover believes the way like an unstable psychotic person would believe that Ivy is his daughter, but that she actually is his daughter based on reincarnation. So he's trying to prove that reincarnation is actual fact. So it kind of sets up an interesting idea there. So they're trying to shield Ivy from the publicity of this trial, which is now moved from, like I said, a family drama to like a big story in the news, where people are debating about this topic or talking about it. And to try to protect their daughter, they send her to this private Catholic school like Connecticut or something. So little Ivy is being kind of picked on by some of her classmates because she's kind of part of this famous court case and called a freak. So she's feeling pretty rejected, and during the bonfire, something comes over her, which is the spirit of Audrey Rose, and starts to crawl into the fire. And she's taken to the hospital. The parents, of course, are really concerned. Everything's falling apart. This is like horrible. Our child's possessed. Maybe she's crazy. So then it is decided in the judge's chambers that Ivy will be put under hypnosis by a expert psychiatrist in front of the jury, which is going to be behind a glass like mirrored glass. And Hoover is there too. So the psychiatrist puts Ivy under hypnosis and she goes through her different past. And the little girl playing the role is pretty good. I found her somewhat annoying. It's hard sometimes with kid actors, just me. But she goes through all of her different, birthday parties and stuff. And then she goes into like a regression and starts to become Audrey Rose again and just goes crazy. And the psychiatrist is trying to bring her out of the hypnosis. She won't come out. She starts banging on the glass in a very dramatic scene because her mother's seeing her, the dad's there, the whole jury's there, and Hoover. And she's patting her hands on the glass, and they're burning, and she can't breathe, and the psychiatrist is trying to bring her out. And in this really great moment, Hoover, because he is her father, he's feeling this incredible need to protect his child, picks up a chair, smashes through the glass, and rushes to her, but it's too late. And poor little Ivy dies because Dad didn't listen to the wife and didn't listen to Hoover and was kind of being stubborn. So there's this idea of kind of like this Western thought, which is represented by this Madison Avenue guy, alpha man, who poo-poos the Eastern religion and philosophies, does something very wrong and loses his child as a result. So at the end of the movie, and it is also included in the book, if I jump ahead, Janice is writing to Hoover, and she has sent Ivy's ashes to India with him so he can, put Ivy and Audrey Rose to rest and free her soul into the next incarnation. You ready to get going? Come on. Where you going? This way? Where you going? Come on. Come on. You can't decide. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. So I think Audrey Rose is a fun, slow burn, not exactly a scary horror film, but definitely one that made me think, and I enjoyed it watching it again and reading the book. So Batilda, what do you think? Do you believe in past lives? Well, in my past life, I definitely can say I was in love with Lestat, but in my present life, I'm finding myself drawn to another. Okay, good to know. Well, that's all I have for today. Thanks for stopping by our haunted library, and we'll see you next time. Bye.